the thing that got me to my success was the same thing that was silently causing a dis-ease and stealing from me and my peace and happiness at the same time. And no matter how much success I got, I was still feeling like it was never enough. Like, what's next? What's next? What's next? I believe we have three core wounds: unworthiness, betrayal, and abandonment. And I can look in someone's business right now and I can see their cash flow and I can see which one of those core wounds are there. I have a saying in my business: more is coming. But if you don't believe that more is coming, more will not come for you.
Welcome to the Lavendaire Lifestyle, the podcast on personal growth and lifestyle design. My name's Eileen, and I'm here to guide you to shine as your brightest self and create your dream life. We all have a light within and the power to create a life we love. Every Sunday, we'll share thoughtful conversations exploring how we can build a better future for ourselves and our world. Life is an art. Make it your masterpiece. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Lavendaire Lifestyle Podcast. It's Eileen. In today's episode, we are diving into money and wealth consciousness. So we're talking about how to transform our relationship with money, how to break through any limiting money beliefs, how to raise our level of wealth consciousness so that we can receive more abundance in our lives. So I love today's topic, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy today's guest. I'm excited to introduce Shamina Taylor. Shamina Taylor, attorney turned wealth expert, business mentor, author, and keynote speaker, helps high-achieving women level up in their personal lives and in their businesses by teaching them how to become the most powerful, fulfilled, wealthy, and successful version of themselves. With over 20 years of experience, Shamina is a top industry leader and has helped hundreds of women build their businesses both on and offline. Hello, Shamina. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Eileen. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here. Super excited to dive in. So why don't we start with your story? How did you go from being an attorney to now becoming a wealth expert and business mentor? Like, what inspired that shift?
Well, like many of your listeners today, I had a very pivotal moment in my life where there was a before and after. And that before and after took place January 2013 on a yoga mat. I was going to my third yoga class at this point. I had just finished a bodybuilding competition, and my girlfriend at the time, she was going to be on TV. And I wanted to be on TV, so I decided to go do yoga. And I was highly competitive, just like most people are, where I was going to win yoga that day. And I went in there with the belief that I could get it done. Anyway, I did not realize that that was going to be a life-changing moment for me. We were about 15 minutes into this class, and my friend was basically asking us, how are you doing? And she said, put one leg one way, put your other leg the next way. And I grabbed onto one of these quirky things and I was holding on to it for dear life because I wanted to push through the pain that I was feeling because, again, I wanted to win yoga. And as I was pushing through this pain, this physical pain ended up turning into emotional pain. And at the same time, she's like, are you happy? I started crying and releasing decades and decades of unfelt emotions that I had not been able to feel in that moment. And I cried for the next 45 minutes. I was in that moment trying to figure out who is Shamina. I had forgotten who Shamina was. And I felt like this release, like something came from above and just allowed me to release. And as I cried, I got out of it with the ugliest cry ever. And I knew something in my life had to change. So I went home and, I didn't immediately talk to my husband, but a month later, we decided for him to move out. And this was the beginning of the journey of me really figuring out who I was. I didn't understand, how did I get to that point in my life where you could have everything? Like I had everything they tell you you're supposed to have that defines success. We both had our businesses. I had my law firm. He had his business engineering company. We had two beautiful kids, a boy and girl. We both had our fit, perfect bodies. We went to Europe in the summertime, the Caribbean in the winter. We didn't want for anything, like everything. But yet on that yoga mat, I was so unfulfilled with my life. And I wanted to figure out at this point, how did I get here? Like, how did I get to a point where I had all of these things and it still was not fulfilling me? So this was the beginning of my deep spiritual journey and self-discovery. And he moved out a month later, and it was one of the hardest things that ever happened in my life. But I will tell you, it was me finding out who I was. And so spiritual teachers, a dead and alive, came to me. I was very much an A type lawyer. Like I did not know that there was energy, consciousness, none of that. Like I was a high performer. I got things done. And as a high performer, we usually are just in, the do energy. And what I realized was all that doing and being in that energy was as a root cause from trauma that I had unresolved as a child. And that just compounded over the years. And I've worked with thousands of women, and I see the patternings in us of, feeling unworthy and how we actually progress in life. And the thing that got me to my success was the same thing that was silently like, causing a dis-ease and stealing from me and my peace and happiness at the same time. And no matter how much success I got, I was still feeling like it was never enough. Like, what's next? What's next? What's next? Nothing made me feel that feeling. And so I spent 3.5 years in monk mode. I was celibate. I kind of threw away all my riches and I was like, oh, I don't want any of this. Money's bad. And then I came to a point where I was like, what's going on here? Like, I actually do love money. Let me go and fix my belief systems around this, because I know that money is just an energy at this point, but I needed to go and figure out, why did I have the beliefs that I did about money and also about abundance? And as I started doing this daily work, which I'll share with you more later on, I realized that a lot of my issues and my lack in scarcity came from the trauma that I had unresolved. And it put me in that state as opposed to a state of abundance. And then I discovered wealth consciousness was. And once I did, everything changed. And when I transitioned my business from being a lawyer to coming into the online space, I thought everybody made $1 million. So I decided that I would like, that was it for me. So in my first year, I came in and I made $1 million. And it was like, this stuff works. Okay, now I have to teach it to everybody. And it's been life changing, because after my divorce, I was starting all over again. I didn't want to practice law. It was really struggling. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I had to figure something out. But I saw women making money. So I'm like, I need to fix my money mindset. I need to fix my wealth consciousness. And because my bank account was on zero, like it was really bad. And I was too proud to ask for help, but I
Yeah.
was able to create the wealth from it.
That's amazing. And there's so many ups and downs in that story that I would love to get into. My first question for you actually is, what made you successful as a lawyer? Because as a lawyer, you said you were making a lot of money. And then once you healed and realized it was trauma and whatever, then you kind of had a moment where you gave everything away. I can relate in the sense that once you realize what made you successful is based off of your trauma and your need for validation, when you're healing and releasing that, you kind of go the opposite end where you're like, oh, I don't want success or I don't want money. And then you become very soft. And then it sounds like you had to wait a minute, like money's not bad. Let me recalibrate and reset. So tell us about that recalibration.
Because I hadn't done enough work yet. I saw success as being something that I was chasing and realizing that it wasn't fulfilling me. No matter how much success I had reached or how many things I bought or what we did, it still wasn't getting to the deep core of my soul. And then for me, it was because I was disconnected from who I was being in this lifetime. And that was my feminine, my spirituality, it was my soul. Like I literally was like the lawyer who didn't know she had a soul. And so I was completely disconnected from myself. And when I started doing this inner work, I started realizing, oh, there's a deeper version of me in here, something that really matters in this world. And that's when things started feeling differently, when I would purchase them or have them. It wasn't, I wasn't just getting the fancy thing to show people, look how successful I am. It was like, oh, now this thing that I desire, because it was different than a goal, this thing that I desire now makes me feel a certain way, because anything we want is so that we can feel something from it. But a lot of people have it disjointed, like I did. It was like, let me have that, then look how successful I am, because that's what they kind of tell you, right?
Yep.
But now it's like, oh, look at this thing. Oh, wow, this makes me feel so happy. I believe we have three core wounds: unworthiness, betrayal, and abandonment. And I can look in someone's business right now and I can see their cash flow and I can see which one of those core wounds are there. So for me, unworthiness was one of my top ones. I have all of them, but unworthiness was there. So I have 3 degrees. I was always going to like more, like, look how good I am. Like, look over here, because my father he was abusive when I was younger, and it's a longer story, but I never got that healthy attachment as a child, or for me to know that I was special, what I said mattered. So I had to reparent myself and go through and heal all of those beliefs and unworthiness so that I can get to a place now where I raise my standards. And I'm like, no, I can have that wealth. I can have those things in life, and they don't need to be coming in to make me feel like I'm important. I just get to have them because I desire them
Yes.
without telling somebody, justifying it. Like a lot of women I work with, they come in, they're like, well, I can't justify buying that. I feel like I haven't worked enough to deserve it. I'm like, this is the poor conditioning that we have been told, that we have to be good girls, justify or deserve to get something. And this is where I have to work hard, another conditioning thing, to get something like hard, then money, hard, then success. So
Yep.
all of that's tied in with suffering. And that's the where I was, because everything I made was in survival mode. And so a lot of women can make money, like I did as being a lawyer, and they make money, but money does not change the core thing that's going on. It does not change your wealth consciousness. People think having money is going to make them richer or wealthier, but money doesn't do that. You'll hear all the time people who win the lottery, athletes, or tech companies have all this money come in and they can't keep it, and all of a sudden it goes out because money leaks will get created. So because subconsciously they can't hold on to the money because they are not tapped into the wealth consciousness of what it means to have that wealth.
It's time to take a break for today's sponsor, Shopify. When starting something new, we often have thoughts of self-doubt. I have this idea, but what if I'm not ready? What if no one cares? What if I fail? Here's what I think. Those what ifs aren't obstacles, they're invitations to grow. What if you're more ready than you think? What if people are waiting for exactly what you want to create? What if the only real failure is not trying? When you shift from fear-based what ifs to possibility-based ones, everything changes. And when you're ready to take that step, having the right support makes all the difference. That's where Shopify comes in. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the US. With hundreds of beautiful templates, you can build a store that truly expresses your authentic style. Their AI tools handle product descriptions and photography, while email and social campaigns help you connect with people who resonate with your work. Shopify manages inventory, payments, shipping, and returns so you can pour your energy into what actually matters to you. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/TLL. Go to shopify.com/TLL. Again, that's shopify.com/TLL. So why don't we start by defining, what do you mean when you say wealth consciousness?
I have a scale in here that shows the consciousness of where we are. Like, in a regular scale, like David Hawkins has a scale, vibration, right? Or of consciousness. Have you heard of it?
Yes, there's like fear, love.
Right. It goes all the way up. Actually, he has desire very low and I have it very high.
Uh-huh.
But I believe that we have that same scale, which I've created. I haven't seen anybody else do when it comes to consciousness around wealth. So if you've got greed, envy on the lower ends of it, or shame, guilt, fear is such a big factor for a lot of people, what depresses their wealth consciousness. But you think about how your relationship with money is. And if I feel guilty about that. I'm stressed about spending. I have no money, and money has power over you. You're going to be on the lower end of that consciousness scale. But as you're rising on the wealth consciousness, oh, money's just a tool. Oh, money's just here for me. Oh, money's all around me. I don't really know. Money's just money. It's not a big deal. And then you move up the scale. It's like, then you get to a level of money will always be there for me forever and ever. I truly believe that until the day I die, I'll always be supported by money. And that is how you ascend up that consciousness scale. But first you've got to figure out what belief systems that are keeping you on the lower end of that scale. And one thing my mom used to tell me a lot is don't waste your money. And I remember one time when I was making quite a bit while I was doing this work, and I was celebrating with her how much I made. She's like, oh, put it away. Don't waste it. I said, Mom, please, I love you, but don't ever tell me I can waste my money, because you had me believe that money could be wasted, and I just know money gets to be replenished. I can't waste it. When you waste it, it means you're making bad decisions with it. You're being poor. You're not being a good steward of your money. And all of those create a negative connotation, and it actually puts us on a lower scale of wealth consciousness.
Yeah, no, this is so relatable, because I'm sure we are all like brought up with certain money beliefs. Oh, we're taught to save. We're taught, oh, it's never enough, this and that. So how did you go about kind of unmantling your belief system around money?
Well, I first realized that it has to start with abundance. And like because money is just a piece of paper, right? It's just paper, but it's the meaning behind the paper, which is the abundance belief. And I realized that I did not have a very, very prosperous or abundant belief. And I tell you all the things that I did that was kind of crazy, but I read every single money book that was out there. I would even light money candles. I would get money oils, anything that would shift me. I got mala beads. I was chanting things. I mean, I was like, we got to break all of these beliefs. But what it really came down to was that I needed to heal anything inside of me that made me believe that there was not enough to go around. And what that meant was I had to remove any limits or any scarcity or any beliefs tied to you can't have it. So
Mhm.
we're raised with this though, right? So
Yeah.
let's say you go out for dinner and people sit there and they really stress about the tip. I'm like, well, is that $3 going to change your life? But the fact that you're sitting here contemplating the $3 shows a limit. You go out to eat, we went out for my birthday last night. My kids know they can get as many appetizers as they want. And, but if you sit there and go, well, oh, I don't want to really spend that much on the appetizer. Oh, there's a limit right there.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to eat and, get the guac. Oh, I don't know if I want a limit right there. So if you start seeing where these limits are, I'll give you another example. It's really relatable. And this is personal. I remember I saw this woman, these furry boots, and I was like, "Oh, where'd you get those boots from?" It was like years, over a decade ago. And she's like, "Oh, I have the link. Here it is." But after I got those boots, she was generous with her information. People asked me where I got those boots, and I was like, "I don't remember." Because I
Yeah.
was not a woman of abundance yet, because I didn't
Oh,
want someone else to be as special as me. So I didn't share the link. Now I will tell everybody and anything because I know there's more than enough love. There's more than enough attention. There's more than enough, whatever it is to go around. But when you have to be in a state of limit, you will not believe that there's more than enough. So even something like sharing a link for where you got something shows a scarcity mindset. So I had to be on this mission to remove anything,
yeah.
and everybody who can relate to that story, anything that would limit me. Like you go out to eat in a restaurant. My son last night, we were at dinner and he's like, we were talking about how he went on a trip and he ended up buying something, and he bought a bunch of seafood and he shared it with his friends, and he's like, there's this kid at camp, blah blah blah. He remembered the kid's name. He's like, I wanted some of his cotton candy, and he went and licked the whole thing and he wouldn't share it with me. And he's like, I don't understand why when people have something special or nice, they don't share it. He goes, because I share with everybody, and that's something that I've taught my children is that they're both the most generous people out there because you can have more, but if you don't first start believing that there's more. I have a saying in my business, more is coming. But if you don't believe that more is coming, more will not come for you.
It's all of the belief. Was there like a breakthrough moment in your life where that really helped you shift this mindset and perspective?
I was in business for a while, well, maybe a year or so or two with this new business. And I was shifting out of doing one on one and I was going to go to just purely group. And I remember I was on the Peloton and I was riding my bike. And this is where the saying came from. And I was really nervous about changing one on one because I was making quite a bit of money on one on one, but I knew that was not a scalable thing to do. And so I had to end my one on one, which was going to be ending reoccurring income a lot, like over six figures coming in to go all in on the group. And I remember telling myself, this is not the only way money can come into your world. You have to be able to expand into more. And as I was at Peloton, I was crying and I was saying, Shamina, more is coming, more is coming, more is coming. I had to stop believing that the only way to make money was this way, or the only way money could come in was that way. And we believe that, especially this is where people get stuck in 9 to 5s, or they only get stuck doing one offer, or they only get stuck running their business one way, is that they believe that this is the only way money's going to come in. But when I was riding the bike, I was like, no, what more is coming? And then the next month, my income did go down, but then the month after that, my income doubled. So it's like, you know, it's being able to allow yourself to let go of that false sense of safety, which is actually keeping you limited in how much wealth you can have. And that's a big other conversation is, a lot of people think that money is when it comes in and they have it in the bank that they're safe. And a lot of us looking for money to provide that safety for us. And it's really a false sense of safety. This is why I've said money is masculine and the way we receive it's feminine, because a lot of people are looking for protection, like the masculine energy to protect, to provide, to take care of. And they're putting all of that on money to fulfill this need inside of them that money can't do. That's something internally you have to reparent or figure out your own, masculine energy. And a lot of us had, I know I did. I had a wounded masculine energy that was running the show.
Let's get into the energy of money. You talk about masculine and feminine, and like, what role does energy play in our relationship with money and wealth?
So everybody has their own beliefs. So you take what you want with what I've said, right? But I've noticed for a woman like me who can identify with me as being A-type, I used to be a perfectionist, control freak, very much in my masculine. I was guarded on my heart and it had a shield. And so I knew how to make money. Now, when I look at the energy of money and I try to figure out the patterning, you have to have polarity with any energies. We both have masculine and feminine energy, all of us do. And I was looking at why do we always have this anxiousness? I went to make an investment in a mentor, and it was after I had a really big month after starting my business, and I was so nervous to make this commitment. However, I was like, why am I so afraid to make this? It was really small at the time because I've made 25x, whatever that investment was. But I was like, I was so afraid to make this investment because I'm like, is it going to work? And that fear is because I was hoping if I hold on to this money, it'll protect me when I need it, right? And that fear kept it stuck. But what I realized is money is just a tool. It's whatever we assign meaning to it becomes law in our life. So if we say that we need this money to protect us and take care of us, we're assigning a meaning to it. I started seeing a pattern for a lot of women who are like me in their wounded masculine, that they were looking for money to fulfill that empty spot inside of them that they did not get from their father or their mother's masculine. And so that's why I came up with this thing. And I've never heard anybody teach it. But when you start studying it and you learn it the way I've taught you, you're going to start understanding and breaking patterns that kept you stuck for that next income goal, right? I mean, I've helped 346 now women this week hit their highest cash months and break those income ceilings because they didn't realize that we are really stuck with this believing that money's just money, right? So I can look at a woman, if she has a healthy relationship with her father, I'll just give an example, she always had a sense of safety. She felt safe because that masculine energy from a very young age had come in to say, you're safe. She never had to go into a survival state the way I did, or maybe other women who didn't have that safety. So we created our own version of the masculine, but so we could create the money, but we just didn't know how to receive it. So when I started working on this, I'm like, I got to tap into my feminine more and learn how to receive. Like I couldn't even receive a compliment. If someone asked to hold the groceries, I was like, no, I'm going to carry all 20 bags myself because
Yeah.
this is what we do when we're in this state. When people are like, do you need help? Nope, I've got it. You look pretty. Oh, this old thing, and when I started tapping into the spirituality work and my feminine, that's when millions rolled in. And so
Mm.
I'm not a girl who says, go take a bubble bath because who has time to clean the bubble bath? I'm talking about restructuring how you receive. So money is just whatever it is. But for women like us or anybody who can relate to this conversation, just ask yourself, do I feel very safe to use it? Do I feel guilty? Do I have fear around it? And if you do, you still don't have a free relationship with the masculine, which also lends over to your relationship with men. And a lot of the times, women who are in their masculine too much, they're emasculating their significant others. And then they're wondering why they're not, having that type of polarity and passion that they want. It's all connected.
I didn't have a healthy relationship with my dad either growing up. And I found that I have that money, like having money makes me feel safe. And I did have that survival mode. So with people who see money, because I would say most people would see money as like Like this means safety, this means security. And that's what a lot of us crave, right? So how do you go about releasing that and allowing it to flow?
Like I talked about earlier, are three core wounds: abandonment, betrayal, and unworthiness. Let's say you have an abandonment wound. Someone could have a really high cash month or a big month, but the next month it'll be dipped because they'll be like, how do I make this money again? Or they have this fear the money's going to go away. Like the money will leave me. Now, if you have an abandonment wound, was your dad around? Did he leave? That could show up in your business because you are the blueprint for your life and business. So whatever lens and experience you're seeing the world through, that's what's showing up every day. So in order to break that cycle, you're going to have to go back to the root, because I'm a root cause girl. I like to get to the root, especially when it's tied to money. And so when we get back to the root, when did the person leave and how did that make you feel? And when we dig into that sense of safety being robbed from you, in a sense, I'm choosy of my words because we don't want to be in a victim mindset. But let's say at the time it was a very traumatic experience and that person's gone. You need to go back and reparent yourself from that root, because I can tell you from that moment and every moment on further, you have a whole history and data of abandonment from relationships, from everything. So I feel like don't go digging. I would carry a money journal with you. I call it a trigger journal. In my book, I talk about a trigger journal, but also a money journal. I was going to Starbucks and I stopped drinking coffee years ago and I started drinking matcha. And I remember the first time I bought it was only 80 cents. And when I was going there, I thought I like won the lottery because I love discounts and deals. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm going to pay full price for my Louis Vuitton and my G-Wagon and everything else. But give a girl a deal and I'm all there. I was like, this is amazing. But then Starbucks caught on that people were drinking matcha with, it was 4 scoops of matcha with water. That was it. They wanted their money. So as I was going through this process, it went to $3 and something cents and I freaked out on the people. I was like, how dare you charge me this much? Nothing has changed with this. I wanted to call the managers. Well, it went up again. It went up again in price. And then I remember one day, it was in 2020, I was going there because I said, well, we all could do was just go to Starbucks. Remember that? And I was in line and I was like, you know what, Shamina, today we're going to just order this like the wealthy woman that you are. Stop being so triggered. Why do you get so upset? Because they'd raised the price again. And I went to the window and I said, okay, I'm paying this as a wealthy woman as I am. Paid it. I was like, okay, this is safe. This is fine. We ended up paying for the car behind me, the car behind that. My kids were like, oh, this is so fun. I feel like Oprah. Tipped them $20. As I'm pulling out of the lot, I hit the light, 10,000 hits my Stripe account. I was like, what?
I love that. Like immediate.
And I was like, how much of my money has been tied up with me feeling betrayed? This is the other core wound, by Starbucks. But was I really being betrayed by Starbucks, or was it the betrayal wound that was leading me to be betrayed, feeling betrayed? And so I had this dominant betrayal wound, but what it was doing was every time I went to Starbucks, it was being triggered. And instead of getting angry at a corporation who was allowed a business to raise their pricing, I went and dug in and found out like, why? Well, my father betrayed me and I had other stories of betrayal. I had to go work on them. And as I did, the funds just kept coming in and kept coming in. So you got to find out what, and this is the hardest thing. That's why mentorship is so important, but it's like, how do you have discernment? Carry a money journal with you so you can see when do you get triggered. Like Costco used to really trigger me when I went inside. I'd use Instacart now. Nobody should be going into the store because it's not a money making move. But like maybe tipping, maybe there's certain services where you're just like, I don't want to. Figure out what gives you that response, that visceral response, and track it for like a month, and then start looking for the patterns. You're going to start seeing something that really data right in front of you.
Time for another short break. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I love that we're having more conversations around mental health, but sometimes all that information available makes it harder to know where to start. There's advice for everything these days, but how do you know what actually works for you? This is why having trusted resources matters so much. Sometimes the most powerful thing is talking to someone trained to help, a licensed professional who can help you navigate your specific situation. That's where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp connects you with over 30,000 therapists and has served over 5 million people globally. You can join a session at the click of a button and switch therapists at any time. Therapy is about so much more than working through difficult times. It's a space to understand yourself better, develop healthy patterns, and learn to trust your own voice. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/TLL. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/TLL. So it really is like just doing the spiritual inner work, the emotional, like all of that is the way for you to break through and have a healthier money mindset, it sounds like.
I mean, it's a daily practice that you have to have. Like if you really desire to have limitless wealth and create as much money, I believe it's all sitting right here for us if we want it, right? It's just waiting for us to receive it. Becoming a receiver of the wealth is really important. A lot of women don't know how to receive. And they also don't know how to desire things either. Like they think they know what they want. When I actually sit down there, what do you desire? They're telling me what their goals are. And until you do the feminine work of like really healing and tapping into your emotions, this is why I teach emotional mastery. You really don't know what your desires are. You're just telling me what you think you want. And desires are the fastest way to connect to the things that we want in the world. It's not, I want the money to buy the thing. It's like, no, like when I wanted the G Wagon I have, it's because I desired it. I told everybody about it. Like I went and visualized driving it. Every day, I didn't actually ever get into a G Wagon before I even bought one. I just knew I wanted one. I saw another woman with success and I'm like, if she can, I can. That's an abundant way of thinking instead of, well, if she has it, her husband probably paid for it. Like you have to really get into that state of being and really feel into it. Neville Goddard talks about feeling is the secret. And a lot of people, when they're in that masculine, they are not tapped into their emotions. So they cannot even feel to create. And I see this in their businesses, because they don't have a big team or any team to be for that matter. So they don't know how to receive support. So they're doing everything themselves or they're micromanaging the people in their lives. Another thing is unworthiness shows up in how much they undercharge for their services and, what they value things based upon what they think the client, patient, or prospect can pay instead of the value of their program. And this is why I teach clients how to sell high ticket because I'm like, you are undervaluing the genius that you have because the way your money mindset is set up. So of course you're going to work harder than everybody else. And this limits people. They're still in the one-on-one instead of doing one-to-many because they let fear dictate how they go or they accept misaligned clients because they're like, well, they're going to pay me. But yet that ends up being more money, more issues than anything else.
Yeah, it's so interesting how so much of it is just the internal beliefs and the fear that you have. You talked about it's a daily practice. So what are the things that have helped you or the women that you work with in those daily practices? Is it like abundance affirmations or like what are the practical things?
Affirmations all day long. Like, I mean, I have on my phone, they still pop up from like 15 years ago where I still have, I get paid for my gifts. I would start putting them everywhere. Like on my phone, if you look at it, I don't have like my kids on here. I have my future on here.
I love it.
Like, I have it on here. When I wanted the G Wagon, it was on here. I'm a millionaire. It's on here. Every day you pick up your phone, like 50, 60 times. You want to program your subconscious because your subconscious is what's actually creating the world that you live in. And the subconscious is run by your emotional state. And so this is why I talk about the core wounds because they're so important. If you can get those core wounds under control, then you can then use that high level of emotions to create. So put that on your phone so you have subconscious. Now, daily money practices, until you get to a full state of abundance, work on finding out what are your beliefs around money every single day. Push the edge just a little bit on things that might make you go, oh, I don't know if I should spend that, and then dig into it. I listen to money books. I would, watch videos on money. I would literally spend maybe 15, 20 minutes a day that's carved out, that's part of your morning routine, that is just for your money practice. Because if you desire to become the most limitless person that you want to be in a state of abundance, then you've got to make reps around it, right? It's like going to the gym. You've got to work out. The same thing with a beautiful wealth consciousness practice. And maybe it is listening to an abundance meditation for, 10 of those minutes. One thing I love doing before is I would make an audio of my future self and that wealthy millionaire version of me. Like, who is she? How does she wake up? Who is she talking to? What kind of people is she surrounded by? What restaurants is she going to?
And it's an audio of you speaking as if you're that person? Is
Yeah.
that how it is? Oh, I love that.
So I went to the bank yesterday. I do this all the time, but I always carry lots of cash with me too. Like
Uh-huh.
the version of me that didn't have my purse is right here, so this is great. So I carry a bunch of money with me, like because then it makes me feel wealthy. So I'll put the
Yes.
money in here. You
Yeah.
start with $20 if you only have
Mhm.
$20, and then you work it up till you get like 100, and you keep it in there. But I carry this is a wad of ones, and so when I first started, I started just tipping people like everywhere all the time. So I carry it and I just tip everybody. And to me, it's like that's what my millionaire version of me is doing. She's spreading the currency around. She is sharing that because she doesn't live in the lack. She's tipping every single person, like to the car wash guys, whoever, because it's like and when people tell me I don't have cash, I'm like, I ask why, because people are afraid to carry money because it could be stolen. And so there's the fear coming up again. But you see men, like old school men, they'll have a wad of money in front of them because men don't fear money can be stolen from them. Women do. Why is that? Because we don't have our own sense of safety. And so it goes right back to feeling safe. How can you regulate your nervous system so that you are not in fight or flight or have a dysregulation? And that's where
Mm.
most of this comes from, is that people have a dysregulated nervous system and they've got PTSD, and that's what's running the show. And when your neural pathways are set for fight or flight, that's how it's going to show up with your money too. Like anxiousness, like, should I make this investment? Should I spend this money? Should I do this? Because you're not coming from a calm state. You're coming from a very hyper aware state that's not actually serving you. So this is why I teach emotional mastery. I have an emotional regulation course. I don't call it that, but it's like you regulate your nervous system, you feel safe, then you can go do the things.
I love it. Yeah, because so much of it is just our fear and the anxiety and the stress that's pushing money away, literally. Like if you're saying if we were just peaceful and calm, it would flow to us.
Yeah, I meditated 1 hour every day for 8 years to help, calm myself. And breath work is really important. Even if you've got 10 minutes a day to like center yourself, because most women, when they're in that masculine dysregulated nervous system, they are constantly busy, and busy is a trauma response because they
Yeah.
cannot be present, right? You know this is why Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, being present. They're always like, what's next, what's next, what's next? And when you can be present in your body, then you re-regulate your nervous system to be present. That's why meditation is so powerful. And breath work helps you move that energy and starts re-regulating this sympathetic nervous system, and then you have this calmness that comes over you. So if you have a heightened awareness around this and you have anxiety and anxiousness, that's a great place to start. Like I did tapping, it never helped. I tried it a couple times. For me, I was really stubborn. I had to go deeper to
Yeah.
do things, but that can rewire. So do that in the morning as part of your practice. And one thing I love doing is gratitude. I do it every single morning. And when you get into a state of gratitude, you can't be in a state of lack.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's such a good tool. Okay, so I want to ask you about your book, The Quantum Woman. So tell us, what does it mean to be a quantum woman, and what is the main message that you want to drive with this book?
My book, it's right here, Unlocking the Quantum Woman. The reason why I created this book is because, you know, I feel like there's a quantum woman in all of us. And even, if you go look at my reviews, the last 10 of them are by the guys, I think. It should be Unlocking the Quantum Person. And I feel like there's this unstoppable, powerful, unapologetically rich woman inside of each and every one of us that knows she gets to have it all. And I would love every single woman to never limit herself or to not fully be in her fullest power, to become extraordinary. And so this book walks you through, I believe it is like, when I wrote it, I want it to be that book that every woman read and said and gave it to her girlfriend. And that's what they're doing right now, where it's like a rite of passage. Like you have permission now to unlock this fierce woman inside of you that is so empowered that she can go create. So I show you a step-by-step process on how to do that. We start talking about your desires. We go through your childhood trauma. We go through how it is that you can now create your reality by removing all of the things that might have blocked you before. There's a workbook inside of it too that helps you basically be your own master of your reality, like how you can sit and create your own tools so that you don't have to rely on everybody else, that you can work through this and make magic. And people have created the most amazing things in this book. When we were younger, or I don't know how everybody grew up, but they were like, you get one lollipop, you get one color. And I wanted the purple and the orange, or purple and the pink. And we weren't told we can have both. And I want when women read this book, they're like, she knows she gets to be too much, whatever that looks like. She doesn't need to be watered down. She can have all the things, everything. And she doesn't have to choose. She doesn't have to work hard to have success, that she can be just who she wants to be in the most highest level of authenticity. When women go through this process with me, they come in with a shield or a mask on, like I wore for decades. And this book is giving you permission. And my work is to take off the mask and be who you are here to be. And that is the most empowering thing, because that's the highest level of authenticity. Your frequency is your highest level, that you could possibly is your most authentic self. Because when you're pretending to be someone you're not, which I did for decades because I didn't know any better, you're not actually in the highest alignment to create what you want and have in this world. So if you could become your most authentic self, then you have unlocked the quantum woman inside of you, and she gets to have it all.
I love
On
that.
that yoga mat that day, I didn't know that woman, who she was. And today, I'm her, and I have fulfillment. And, I wish I could just tap on my shoulder and be like, it's going to be okay. You're, you're going to get there.
Yeah. If you think about it, we all have a future self that's like telling us, you'll get there. It's possible.
You believe that you should have more than what you have now. That's your quantum woman speaking to you. You have to honor her. All of it's identity work, right? If you can shift that identity, you will collapse time and bring that quantum version of yourself to your reality so much faster, because it's there waiting for you. Like if you feel like you don't have the things that you want, I want to give you reassurance that your desires are so true and they are meant for you, even if they sound crazy, the things that you want to do. Do not let anyone else, including yourself, doubt yourself on what you can do in this lifetime, what you can be, do, and have. It's here for you. And I want you to be so empowered to go out there and be unstoppable and do whatever it is you want.
So beautiful. Do you have a favorite exercise or practice from this book that you can share?
Well, I just shared one of them earlier, which was the trigger journal. And you'll find out more about this, and I'll tell you why. So when we are emotionally mastered, we're no longer handing our power over to someone else. So let's say you get, or I'll use me because I live in Chicago, but you get a little pissed off when someone cuts you off driving, right? And you're like, oh, I'm so angry at that person, and the rest of your day is upset, or you go by and you yell at them. What you can do now, instead of getting so angry, is that you now go internal. Why did that upset me so much? And being able to have better boundaries and be able to communicate is so important. So when you start carrying a trigger journal, you'll start seeing, why did that upset me? And do it for at least a good week, the trigger one. I gave you the money one, but the trigger one goes in deep here. And I'll tell you why. Because instead of getting upset with someone or even biting your tongue and then just go and talk about them behind your back, you then have a way of processing the emotion that came up. And in the book, I teach you how to get to the root of it so that you no longer feel like you are reactive, but you're responsive, and you get to choose what emotion that you want to share with someone else. And why this is important is because when we're in a reactive state, when emotions are high, our intelligence is low, we are actually out of our power. And this is not a place of creation. It's a place of just survival. It's not
Mhm.
thriving. So, you know, when a trigger no longer has an emotional response where you don't cry over it, you've moved past it. But it takes a lot of work to get there because it's not something that we've been taught. So carry a trigger journal and you can find out more. And it will be like, I have a woman who has worked with me for a few years. She's made $1.7 million and she swears by the trigger journal to this day.
Um,
You know, 51 women who become millionaires and multimillionaires in my work. And every single person that I teach emotional, the first thing I teach them, it's all in this book about how to master the emotions so that you can be the powerful one, where you can have power over others.
Yeah. So the whole point of starting with emotions is we are not in our power when we let our emotions take over us. Because only when we are in our calm, peaceful state can we manifest the abundance.
A lot of the times when we're like, oh, where's the thing? I'm looking for the thing. Where's the thing? We're actually creating a sense of lack. Like that's the frequency we're sending out instead of, it's working out. It's on its way. It's on its way to me. I trust it's going to be okay. Everything's always working out for me. But that is like a big faith muscle to exercise. So yesterday, my daughter and I were going for blowouts, and we were running tight on time because it took me to a 2-hour massage, and we had a lot of things for my birthday. And when we got there, I said, you know what? It's all going to work out, honey. Everything's going to be fine. Guess what happened? Both of the people that had appointments after us canceled. And we ended up getting our time because I went in there with the belief it's okay. And that's one thing, if people can come into my world, is to just not worry and stress, especially about money or anything. If you can get into a state of calmness and peace, because who you're being is what you attract into your world. So your frequency is going to be what you're admitting. So the more that you can sit back, and this is the feminine going back here, the feminine is the trusting, the knowing, even though it's a chaotic energy, but when you can get into a state of, everything's gonna be okay, everything's gonna be good, you will then, the universe will go and conspire in your favor. But when you're anxious and worried, it's not going to work out. I was just telling this today in my millionaire club. I was telling them the serenity prayer. And I'm not a religious person, but when things were really hitting the fan bad back in 2013, because my whole world turned upside down. I mean, you can only imagine. It was like I gave you an abridged version of it, but I had to say that every day, like control the things that I can, and the things that I can, I just have to let them go and not worry so much. And that's where my perfectionist and my control freakism, I don't know if that's a word, I had to let it go. I'm like, all right, whatever's going to work out is going to work out.
Okay, so if I ask you, what is the mindset of this, what makes the women most successful in business that you've seen, how would you illustrate it? Can you show us maybe through beliefs or descriptions, what that looks like?
I have a couple of clients I can what happened with them I can share. So I had a client, she's a lawyer and she was making pretty good money. She came to one of my events in Chicago, my wealth consciousness event. And she saw me on a YouTube video and she said, I know I've got money leaks. I make money, I got a money leak. And because money leaks show up as resentment, it shows up as, and this resentment is a really big thing, or it shows up in your belief that you don't deserve. It shows up different places. So when she came to work with me, I said, we started her through the process. And what she realized is that she didn't feel very deserving of the wealth that she was creating. So she was creating places for the money to go out. She also didn't feel like she could go past a certain ceiling because she thought that success had to be incremental. Like I do this month, this month, because it was linear. And when you're in your head, you're always looking for this. But when you're working with quantum energy, it's this. There's no explanation for it, right? It's like you get to have quantum leaps. And when she realized that she didn't have to make $10,000 every month or whatever she was making, she could make more. She ended up having $130,000 highest cash month because she lifted the limits. So what I would say to someone who's having the same month over and over again, what's there that's creating a limit to how much money you're making? Why do you have a consistent, or why is it staying stuck and it hasn't gone beyond that? I had a client, Christina. She has a biodegenerative beef and pork farm. And, she started when she had made $1 million, then she went to 6 million. She can make 30 million this year. The biggest thing that shifted for her, there's 3 things. One, she wasn't doing things that she loved anymore. So dancing. If you don't get into a flow state and have downtime in anything that you're creating, whatever business, you are going to always be in hustle mode. And hustle mode is not the mode. It's like we get into our feminine, then we do the masculine thing, but you always have to have downtime. And so when she started dancing again, money started coming in. But she
I
also
love that.
started working on her conviction about who she was, because she was making about $100,000 a month. She's like, Shamina, nothing was staying. Like I hear this all the time. And they're like, I don't know where the money's going. Well, the fact of the matter is some of them don't feel safe to receive that large amounts of money. So what they do is they create a pathway and a money leak for it to go out. So we had to recondition to her to be like, how big can you go? And how big can this money that you receive? And so she started feeling into what made me feel unsafe for having or being seen in my power fully. Went and closed a $4 million contract like 2 months later. And so there's things that we do on a subconscious level. I would ask yourself, if today you received the amount of money that you wanted, what would you feel? What would your response be? Because then you could start saying, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that money came. Like, wow, that's a big deal. What would I do with it? What's your first initial? Like, for some of my clients, like, I have to take care of my family. I'm like, oh, that's your big thing. Or they're like, oh, the tax man's going to come. Oh, that's your big thing. Or I'm going to lose it. Oh, that's your big thing. Like find out what your biggest thing is, because that's going to tell a really big story for you.
Another thing you talked about is like wanting women to feel like they can do it all and not feel like it's too much. I think we're often told that you have to pick one thing or you can only do this way. How do you break out of that?
My thing is, if it's in your heart, you need to try it. Like, it was a really big deal for me to leave being a lawyer, because that was my whole identity for a very long time. But like I said, I did a lot of identity work. The old version of me was identifying with a lawyer, but this new version of me, although I still have that badassness in me. I'm not that lawyer anymore. I'm always going to be a lawyer, but I feel like try it, see which one sets your soul on fire. Like, if I never got paid to do what I do, I would still do it every single day. That's how I look at it. Like, for me, this is fun. This is like, I wake up every day. I'm like, this is how I get to create wealth for myself and my family and for other women. Like, this is so much fun for me. Like, the more fun you're having, the more money you're going to make, because it's such a high frequency. So if you're doing something just to do it, like it's making you money, but you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. You're actually making money at the lowest vibration that you possibly can. Now, here's the thing though. I've had clients come to me like, I don't want to do this offer anymore. And I'm like, is the offer making you money? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're going to find a team member and make you do this offer, because I don't want you to, because if it still works, don't break it. Like it's not broken. However, when you lose your passion for something, it really does affect how many clients come in to buy from you or to invest with you, because you don't feel it. So
Mhm.
do the things that make you happy and light you up. I would try, I mean, I'm a type of person, I would try it all at the same time,
Yeah.
but just see which one. Like, this is what they tell you to do though. Like, even when you're like starting YouTube, like throw a couple of different things out there, see which one bites, and I'm not a YouTube expert. I'm just saying I've heard this before, but see which one, and then what lights you up and what do you get excited about? And what if someone told you today you couldn't do one of those things? What would you be upset about? And maybe that's the first one to start with.
Another thing is like, how does this money mindset fit in or work with the larger scale of like reality and the world, right? Because sometimes we have like the economy's up and down, and people say, it's harder for people to find jobs and make money, the recession, blah, blah, blah. Do you let that affect you? Or how do you kind of like protect yourself? How do you hold yourself in this macro environment?
So when the whole world was falling apart about 6 years ago, when that happened, right? I was like, oh, thank goodness, my turn. I get to catch up. I was like, this is great. Because, because listen, fear and scarcity go hand in hand. And so whenever I see someone still wearing a mask today, I'm like, oh, that person really has a scarcity mindset, because they're so worried about the lack, right? So I took that as, okay, the world's slowing down. It's time for Shamina to pull on through. I
Okay.
made a ton of money, and I
Yeah.
kept going through. Look, the economy is going to always go up and down. Louis Vuitton made cash. Everybody, all those high end brands had lines out the door, because they didn't have that limited thinking that most people do, because they're a luxury brand. They're like, no, we're not lowering our pricing. We're not changing anything. In fact, we're going to make it harder for you to have what we have. You've got to go into a growth and abundant mindset that way, right? And so I took it, and I took a belief there was more millionaires made in a depressed market than anything. So that's all I needed to know. Let's go. Because there's so many beliefs to believe out there. It's what you want. People kept saying there was a recession. I had my biggest year last year in my business while other people weren't. You get to believe what you want. If other companies, there's billionaires out there making money, well, am I going to sit there and be like the average people and think about like, oh, those people can worry about other things, but I choose to have an elevated wealth consciousness about what I want. And that's what you have to do. You have to take yourself out of the pack, because there's people that want to keep you limited because they don't know how to expand the way they think. And that's why I always say, like, you got to be careful who you surround yourself with, because a scarcity mindset is very contagious, right? Why do you want to be a millionaire? Why do you want to do that? Why? Well, it's none of your damn business. I'm going to do what I want to do. Right. So I don't care what goes on in the economy. I don't care what's happening in the world. When I bought my car, I paid a huge premium for it because there was no G-Wagons around. I wanted it then and there, and that was it. I was going to pay the price for it because I knew it was just money I'd make more, right? So you got to decide how you want to live. If you want to live in the lack and the scarcity, that's your choice. Or do you want to live in the fruitful of abundanceness? There's a huge wealth transfer coming up soon where there's going to be they say it's 84 billion or whatever, or it's going to be passed on, and 60% of that's going to be women. And people who do not have an expanded wealth consciousness and money mindset might lose the money that's been gifted to them or transferred down to them because, like I said in the beginning, if you do not have this level of wealth consciousness or to hold the money, to receive the money, to allow yourself to have that to grow and compound, you'll find a way to create a money leak for it to go out. There'll be a lawsuit, an expense, things that'll come up, and you'll be like bills that you didn't even know about, back taxes. And unless you can shift into, oh, right. Well, money's always here for me. Like I said earlier, till the day I die, money will always be because I know the masculine will always take care of me and money's masculine. And so
Mm,
that's what I want more women to start getting into. Like,
yes.
don't you worry about what's happening in the world. You stay in your lane because it's just the energy. The world's going to go and do what the world's going to do, but you stay right here and get on this frequency and we're going to rise together.
I know you've been talking about this whole time, but another piece of advice on how can we expand this money container that we have for ourselves and not let things leak through?
Like I had a client ask me before, she's like, I get anxiousness at the beginning of the month to pay for my bills. I said, okay, why do you pay at the beginning of the month? Are you worried that your money's going to run out at the end? She goes, yep. I said, okay, let's work on that. And I said, because that's the energy you're bringing to the month every month is that you're worried the money's going to run out. I go, what if we just tested it? Not all your bills. We just tested, and the one that doesn't give you a late fee, paying one bill later in the month and just seeing how you feel. And can you still use your money the way you want, or are you going to be anxious about it? But just check in with yourself because whatever you're creating, even with paying your bills or how you're exchanging money, it's going to determine your relationship with it. So I took it upon myself to say, I have a really great relationship with money. And I didn't because I didn't have a good relationship with my father. So I had to start cultivating a new relationship. I even was making like Snapchats and things back in the day saying, money's my boo. I love money, like crazy stuff like that, where I was like, instead of hating money and looking at money and saying, like every time I used to ask people before, they're like, would you want to go? I got to see how much money I have. I'm like, oh, I didn't really, it didn't really click for me until now that I have money. Oh, someone's still asking money for permission on how to live their life. They don't have power over money. Money has power over them. And so when you can start being the one that has power over money, you're going to start shifting the dynamics of how that relationship is, or it's not going to be such a struggle where money is telling you what to do. And so you're going to get into a different vibration and different frequency of like, all right, money, I'd like to do this. Then the money will show up. Or I'd like this, you won't be asking money for permission. Start small though, every day. Maybe it's your Starbucks run where you're doing like, I am never going to be the person that's going to tell you to constrict your money because that's James Ramsey. But telling people like, don't like cut back, cut back, cut back. That's such a scarcity belief system.
Yeah.
I'm like, make more, make more. We have never been
Yeah.
in a world where it is easier to make money every single day than the one we are in now. Just make more money. And, oh, then it's a waste. People are going to say that all the time. People told me I was stupid to pay cash for my G Wagon. Okay, that's your belief, but I own it. And when I drive it, I don't feel like a fraud that I just leased it and put it all over the internet. It was like, I own it. It's my car. I'm the wealthy woman in it. I feel wealthy every time I drive it. It's like the things that can help you feel wealthy, the way you dress every single day. Are you going for the premium things that you want? Are you flying first class? I feel wealthier flying first class than I do flying coach. I like to go when I want. I like to get on the plane first. I'm like a little old lady with my blanket, my Louis Vuitton blanket. I like to sit in 3E. It's what I sit. It's how I like to fly comfortably. Everybody has their belief systems. Like Mark Cuban, he apparently buys all his toothpaste in one shot for the year to save a few bucks. But I also heard he has his jet running and spends $50,000 to have his jet running so he doesn't have to have startup fees. So is it really about the money, or is it about their past experiences that are
Yeah.
showing up in their money?
Right. Yeah, totally.
maybe Barb's mom told her, don't waste your money. So she has the money to fly first. It's a belief system. Go into the core beliefs of what people told you, where it was from. Do you think Mark needs to save a couple dollars on toothpaste and he spent
No.
$50,000 on his jet? It's not about the money. You know what I mean? It's deeper. So if you can unlock those pieces, you will unlock so much wealth consciousness for yourself. Find out where the limits are and you will become limitless with it.
Yeah. And how do you define the peak of wealth consciousness? Like, what are we believing when we're at that peak?
Money's always there. It's never running out. It is like, like I said, the day I die, I never have to worry about money ever again. I live like this. I can feel it in this frequency. I mean, I never have to worry about clients coming to find me. I'm never in a desperate state. The moment that I ever revert back to that old belief, I have to catch myself because I move so quickly with my energy that, oh, if I sit here and worry for 1 minute about what I'm spending money on, I will go right back into that state. And so it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
constant reaffirmation of, no, everything's great. Everything's good. So being
Yeah.
up here, it's like an automatic set point of like, well, it's just money. It's just
Yes.
money. I had Elena Cardone on my podcast a little bit ago, and she and I were talking about it, and she's like, the jet is just money. And when you meet people who have reached a certain level of wealth, they'll tell you it's just money. You'll hear them say that, and because the money will no longer dictate how they live. It's just money. So to me, consciousness is just money. It's not good or bad, but if you
Right.
tie it to your safety, it's more than money. If you tie it to your validation, it's more than money. If you tie it to the guilt and shame you have, it's more than money. You know what I'm saying? If you tie it to the type of clients you're getting because you're accepting those clients that are a pain in the ass, it's more than money. And so I try to neutralize that so it just does not become, a control of yours.
Love it. All right, Shamina, if there is one final takeaway or one final piece of advice you want to share with our listeners today, what would that be?
You are limitless. You get to be unapologetically rich. You do not have to choose. You do not have to justify whatever it is that you want. If your desire is there, it's meant for you. I want you to understand that if they create it in this lifetime and you want it, go get it, go have it, receive it. Don't say like, I can't stand when women say, oh, well, I'd like experiences over things. That is somebody told you that. You can like that, but what about both? What about
Yeah.
and? I'm going to
Yeah.
the Amalfi Coast again on French Riviera with my kids again and flying first class there and back. That's experiences, but I want it all. And I'm going to go have the nice things. Don't let society or anyone else tell you what you want to create in this lifetime or what vision you have. Go bigger because the people that are around you are watching you. My kids are my wealthiest version. I broke generational trauma and created generational wealth with my children.
Amazing.
My kids know there's no limits. My daughter last night said, thank you for showing us this new relationship or what we can have with money because I never worry about it and I can do whatever I want in my lifetime. Do it for yourself and your children and everybody around you because you can have it all. And I want you to go out there and have it all.
I love that. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Shamina. Finally, where can we find you online?
Okay, you guys come and check me out on Instagram. Look, since you guys listen to Eileen's podcast, Lavendaire, I have a gift for you actually that I want to share with you. I hope it's okay to give it to them, and it's free, so you don't have to worry about it. So I love that Eileen we actually had a lot of technicalities getting on today, and she was with me in my never give upness and to make it
I
work.
love that too. We
You
made
know,
it work.
Yeah, we made it work. And so this is why I want to give all of you listening something I've never offered before. And it's usually for my high ticket clients, but I want to give it to you. So I'm actually going to give you two things. So one of them is this is for the high achieving woman, because that's who I work with, who already has created some success, but she still finds herself in that hustle mode, or she's still in the A type, she's burnt out. Maybe she's hitting an income ceiling and she's secretly wondering, like, why have I gotten to that next spot? Next. I'm saying it's really specific because I want you guys to understand who this is for. And so she really, truly desires that next income, and she wants to break this pattern and unlock that next level of wealth and create consistent cash months that are higher and higher and basically scalable wealth, without burning out, because nobody has time for that. We want to enjoy our lives, right? And so what I'm giving you today bridges the gap between, where you are and where you want to be, making more money by doing less. So I've got something called the instant cash flow method. And it's a powerful guide that shows you, the exact steps to activate your wealth consciousness, take aligned action, and start bringing in more money, with ease and flow and not having to do a bubble bath. And this was going to help you maybe stop spinning your wheels or trying to figure out what you're doing wrong and help you bring in consistent cash months. And the second thing I'm going to give you is something that I used to give my one-on-one. I don't even do one-on-one anymore, but it's called an exclusive wealth expansion session. It's like literally 10 minutes. And that's all it is. And you want to find out basically, where are you? Why are you stuck? And you want to have a plan on what can help you go further. So both of these things are absolutely free. All you need to do is DM me on Instagram, Lavendaire, this is the name of the podcast, and you will get it free. No one's going to sell you anything because I'm not like that, because I'm a woman who is like, when you're ready for me, you'll find me. But I just I'm like literally in the beginning of this, I was telling Eileen, thank you for, opening up to our platform, because I want more women to stop being in suffering and just really get out there and get the wealth they can deserve. So Shamina Taylor, ShaminaTaylor, and then go get my book, Unlocking the Quantum Woman, and then come check out my podcast, Unapologetically Rich. And listen, 3 people just sent me a message recently, said they listened to the podcast and the book, and they made $50,000 in their month. Do not limit yourself. Go out there and be rich and wealthy and be amazing.
I love it so much. And you are proof that this works. So thank you so much for being here. I'll have all the links to everything down below. And hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to The Lavendaire Lifestyle. If you like the podcast, please show your support by leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can also subscribe to our podcast YouTube channel at youtube.com/Lavendaire Lifestyle and follow our Instagram at Lavendaire Lifestyle. Sending you so much love. Bye.